Folks, this is session 10. All right, Pathfinder session 10. And I have to say, if you were at the last session, I inadvertently said, you know, I had scheduled two panel discussions back to back, and that was incorrect. I was mistaken. There will be some presentations, a combination. It's been wonderful. Each session has been uniquely different, all right, and uniquely memorable. Now, I will admit that I had not heard of Unmudl prior to this, all right? But I suspect that both the name and the spelling is intended to make it unforgettable, okay? So this is a course-to-job marketplace founded by community colleges for working learners, all right? Developed in such a way that it can rapidly develop and deploy community college content for working and adult learners on a national scale, all right? Perfect for Pathfinder, okay? This session, it brings together an outstanding team of thought leaders to share this with you, led by the Chief Marketplace Engagement Officer of SocialTech.ai, Mr. Julian Alcid. All right, he'll be sharing the platform with Erica Barrero of Central New Mexico Community College and Kristen Gubser of Gateway Community College. Now, folks, the firepower that Julian has brought to this team will be evident shortly, all right, as his panel unveils the this is a bit of a tongue twister, the Unmudl model, okay, and provides examples of how this marketplace is being used to expand the reach and services offered by community colleges, okay? Now, you guys know the drill, all right, as you come in. Use the question and answer window at the bottom of the screen to submit your questions if you would. All right, we'll be monitoring them throughout. And don't wait till the end. We're gonna save time at the end, but don't wait. Submit the question as they occur so that when we get to that point in the presentation, we'll take them as they, in the order in which they were submitted, okay? All right. Julian, it seems like we've been working toward this for a long time, doesn't it? But I'm very happy to finally introduce you to our NCCET audience. Take it away, my friend.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Ed, for the kind introduction and really, and for including us in this in the conference. We really are thrilled and honored to be a part. As Ed said, I'm Julian Alcid, and I call myself Chief Marketplace Engagement Officer with Social Tech. I'll provide a little bit more about my background and Social Tech and Unmudl after my fellow panelists, Erica and Kristen, have been able to introduce themselves. And then also after we do want to get a true feel for who's in the audience. So please do, if you haven't already done so, let us know, what's your role and your college. We really like to kind of get a feel. We can go around the room, but but it's always seems like a logistical nightmare. So type it in, and when you speak, give us a little further context. So Unmudl is, I like to believe, I think we all believe, those of us involved, that Unmudl is a groundbreaking initiative, and in large part due to the innovative colleges and college leaders that have built and are building Unmudl. So I'm really thrilled to be joined both by two of my leading partners in crime or in innovation, Erica and Kristen. And so Erica and Kristen, why don't you take just a little bit, we thought it would be great, you have our bios and all in the program, but great to just kind of hear a little bit about how each of us are coming at this, because part of what makes Unmudl so unique is it's a platform that's quite malleable in many respects. So Erica, maybe you should go first.
So Central New Mexico Community College is a large urban college in New Mexico. And, starting in 2008, when we saw declining funding from our state and local revenues, We, at a time when there was high need during a recession, we realized that we needed to start looking at how do we diversify, quite frankly, our portfolio and revenue sources. And so at that time, we developed a new arm of our college called CNM Ingenuity. And that arm was developed to be the umbrella for the workforce training development that we were already doing, but also as a way that we would intentionally invest in innovations and opportunities that could bring new revenue sources to our college. And so for us, Unmudl was an opportunity to bring something new to our portfolio that would give us a larger reach and allow us to think about different ways that we could market the non-credit and skills-based training that we have.
Great. Well said. Kristen.
Yes, hi everyone. I know you, as Julian said, you have our bios. My name is Kristen Goobser. I'm the Associate Vice President of Workforce Strategy and External Affairs at Gateway Community College, which is one of the 10 Maricopa Community Colleges in Phoenix. And similar to Erica, the community college district in Arizona completely was eliminated from the state budget just about a dozen years ago. So ever since, we've been really trying to also diversify our revenue streams. Of the Maricopa Community Colleges, Gateway is known as the occupational college. So as I'm sure most of you are familiar, occupational programs and occupational education is very, very expensive. So our presidents have been very visionary in that we needed to try things a little bit differently. We needed to take calculated risks. We really needed to think of new ways to be able to recruit and retain students other than just traditional marketing efforts to do that. And in addition to just in Maricopa County having 10 community colleges that are somewhat competing against each other for the same students, it's also pretty crowded higher ed landscape in terms of universities, private colleges and private universities that are all in Arizona. So what could we do to make ourselves stand out and really complement and leverage all of the occupational programs that we have at the college? So when Unmudl was presented to us, we saw this as a great opportunity for us to be able to do those things, to grow non-credit training and the associated revenue with that, and really to diversify and engage in new markets in terms of recruitment and retention for students.
Great.
So I'll stop there. I tend to talk a lot, so I'll
No,
stop
no, great. We want you to talk, Kristen. But but we'll definitely be back to you and hear more from you. A little bit of context, a little bit about me and some context. What I'd like to do then is show you all a bit of Unmudl and turn it into a conversation, first with Erica and Kristen, and as Ed said, with all of you. So, as we go, type your questions, and we will open it up for Q&A. But we think it's helpful to have a little context and then to actually get to see how Unmudl works. So a little bit about me. For the past 30 years, my work's really been focused mainly on the central role of community colleges in workforce development. Community colleges really are the infrastructure we're all investing in and have a resource base unmatched by any other training entities and serve, a broad swath of the population and really provide ticket to the middle class and beyond for so many folks, as you all know. I mostly work nationally in 23 states, scores of regions. I ran a consulting think tank for many years, spent 4 years at Southern New Hampshire University, where I helped to set up what we called College for America, a competency-based online model, and then for working adults. And then the last 3 years here in Rhode Island, where I'm sitting, leading the workforce development at our community college in the state. And stepped down in November to get back into the national scene when I was approached by Parminder Jasal, who's the CEO of Unmudl. Parminder was a funder of mine at the Gates Foundation many years ago. And we really connected around this notion of this sort of vision around how do you build a national network of community colleges. There's a lot of people out there, we've estimated pre-COVID, that's about 64.5 million, what we call working learners in this country, people who are in need of who are in need of training, who in normal times would be working. Maybe now they're unfortunately unemployed or furloughed working learners, but these people need training to get ahead, and they're not on campus and they're not online, and they're stuck in that muddle, hence the name Unmudl. And not to mention the 32 million companies that need these folks. And so our focus and work has been around how do you leverage community colleges broadly, both to help them get the most out of what they can in their regions, and then to begin to work as a collective nationally. And community colleges this isn't what they were set up to do. They're, the workforce side, they're, first of all, overall, they're tend to be very under-resourced. The workforce sides tend to be even more so. They're often hard to access. When you think of online and registering online, our research has found that it takes 7 to 12 clicks to register for a course. Many people are gone by click number 3 or 8 or something. Employers don't necessarily know how to find community colleges, and they're not a system. And this is no knock at anyone. It's not what they were set up to be. So Social Tech is a social benefit corporation, a B Corp, that was started by Perinder, that develops technology for social good, and Unmudl is the flagship initiative of social tech. And as Ed said, it's a one-stop marketplace that's founded by community colleges for working learners and employers. And so what I'm gonna do is share my screen, and let's hope this works. There's always the fun part. Let me see, can you see my screen? Yes, I see heads nodding. Excellent. So, so we are, sorry, I'm just stalling for a moment here to move the picture of you all out of the way so I can see my screen myself. So Unmudl was founded by 5 colleges, represented by, 2 are represented by Erica and Kristen today, Central New Mexico and Gateway, along with Pima and San Juan, also in Arizona and New Mexico, and Bellevue College in Washington. It's really the heads of these colleges who came together. They're all like super innovators, just like Erica, Kristen, and they all actually threw in the initial money that helped pay for the building of the site, the market research, the focus groups, and so on. We have just recently added 2 colleges, San Diego and SUNY Broome, which is super exciting. And what I'm about to show you, the website, which you're looking at, is currently in, what are we calling this? This is beta mode. So the colleges are currently loading up courses, and the plan is we're going live in November. So it's not fully functional. All the functions of the site are not turned on. I'm going to walk you through quickly what it looks like, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that's not turned on, and I can even show you some pictures of parts that aren't turned on. So the idea is, picture your favorite online marketplace, Amazon, Travelocity, Airbnb. It's to make this super easy for learners, to help them address their challenges around time and cost and the uncertainty of kind of the value of courses. But for colleges, as we said, it's a national market. It's kind of this modern online consumer experience, and it's all about leveraging existing content. So it's really about leveraging courses, credentials, services colleges may offer, and facilities. And in a way that allows us to disaggregate them, because we know that that's what is happening now and going to happen for the near future. The old model of everything being place-based, forget it. In Unmudl, we are offering online, both synchronous and asynchronous, hybrid and place-based, and they can be done in combination with multiple colleges. So again, it's really about leveraging that resource. So the homepage features the colleges. Let's see, I'll go to you, Erica. They all have a page for the college that shows their courses in Unmudl. As we go forward and start marketing this, the courses, everything you'll see here will start having ratings of the courses and the instructors and comments from learners. I should have said at the outset, maybe we haven't said this explicitly, Unmudl is working with the non-credit side of colleges. And the idea is that we want to work with that side that is most responsive to employers and able to deliver credentials that are going to help someone gain that immediate attachment to a job or connection to a credential of value. And so you'll see one of the things that's not turned on yet, but I'll show you, is how this is very much about a non-credit to credit pathway in many respects. But it's really about getting that quick attachment because that's what people need. Everyone needs a job, and people really need it in a strategic way. So if I click on a course, for each course, you'll see, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but some of the really big highlights for me, the courses show where learners have been hired. So employers that have actually hired folks. We've heard this from learners and employers that they really want that signaling. We think that's very important. It includes descriptions, talks about skills that'll be learned, the instructor, a lot of what you're seeing here about the, this is all building and integrated with the ONET taxonomy, the Department of Labor's way of describing jobs, and that's all embedded in here. So what are the knowledge and skills you're going to get out of this course, and what are related courses? I'm going to show you for a super second. So if someone clicks on the Digital Media Bootcamp at Central New Mexico, Unmudl is going to show them how this course equates to various academic pathways at the college. So for example, with this digital bootcamp, a student will earn 15 credits towards a digital media marketing certificate, or 12 towards this AAS in computer in CIS. At Gateway, there'll be 50% towards a digital marketing certificate. If a student wants to see the details there, they can come in and see exactly which the selected course, this is a boot camp, so it's 5 courses. They can then, if they want, log in to see the completed and missing credits. So those are the credits awarded. Here's credits they've already completed. Here's what's missing. And then they can check out the career prospects in whatever region of the country they want. Here are the students in Boston, and able to see the jobs and what they pay. And so again, I'll show a little bit, but what I'll talk about more after is, you're looking at the learner portal. On the back end is a college portal where the colleges are updating all the data that you're seeing. And then there's an employer portal that will allow employers to source talent, request collaborations with college, post jobs. And again, all of it is using the sort of same taxonomy, as well as real-time labor market data we're drawing on. So back to the little walkthrough here. So colleges have, so there's pages for each course. There's, we can see the instructors. Here we'll look at Beth McLeod. What is Beth teaching? Introduction to Teaching and Learning Online. We can compare up to 3 courses at a time. Students have their own profiles. Let me see. And then the other piece, which I'm not going to go through in great detail, but I think it's super important, is, as I mentioned, it's slow signing up for courses. And so on the front end here, we're using a program called Stripe. So one of the things all the colleges have agreed to is to purchase Stripe accounts. And so Stripe is what would you call it? Financial fulfillment program, and it's super easy. So it's like first name, last name, email, and you're in. And the idea is, once students register on Unmudl and sign up for courses, we have a team that works on the back end with the tech and financial services people at the colleges to integrate Stripe with the college's own ERP, financial and learning management system. So students are sent to the colleges and referred out. That's one thing that distinguishes it from, aggregators like Coursera and Udacity or edX, where everything happens on their portals. Before we go into our discussions, let me just show you super fast a couple of things. So the college portal, well, I think I've sort of highlighted how there's a lot of data in this. Everything is really underlying all of this is the data about the skills that you're going to get if you take a certain course and that tie to certain jobs. And so on the back end, as I said, the colleges have what do you call it, a portal that allows them to essentially upload all the data, everything you've seen, their logos and their courses and their instructors, and then keep track of everything in real time. So they can see at any moment how many students are enrolled, you know, what the revenues look like. I mean, one part that I love is, I know that when I was at Community College of Rhode Island, we were serving like 25,000 students through our programming. I would have like, had I stayed there and we'd done this, I think I would have been hitting refresh every 2 seconds to see like how specific courses are doing. And it's all sorts of actionable data. The employer portal, and I'm giving a very whirlwind tour because we can answer, you know, I'd rather turn this into a conversation. The employer portal allows employers to post jobs, to search applicants, to request collaborations with colleges. What's particularly, I think, compelling about this are two things. One, I've done a lot of work over the years with big national employers, and you know, they want to work more with community colleges, but doing it one by one is very challenging. Our plan with Unmudl is to grow from the now 7 colleges, first to 15, essentially kind of founding partners or broadening that circle, and then eventually to having a couple of colleges in each state. And that's it. So that someone can register for a course that Erica or Kristen's college may offer online, and perhaps in collaboration, colleges throughout this network might offer hands-on practicums and testing. And so it becomes a true national resource, especially for big employers. And then for small employers, the tools we have are, you know, quite compelling. Since the vast majority of people in this country work in small companies, they can go ahead and post jobs that, so here's an example, a company posting a welder position. Well, you know, a small company that doesn't have real HR capacity, we're giving them incredibly powerful tools where if they want to post a welding job, it'll sort of automatically populate with default Department of Labor data, and then they can go in and modify that. So in Rhode Island, I was doing a lot of training for, say, the General Dynamics electric boat building submarines. Well, the seals on the welding required an incredible level of precision because, of course, if a submarine seal breaks, a lot of people die and a lot of money is lost. The employers can go in and play with that kind of information. So we think that Unmudl as this kind of three-way marketplace, serving the learners, the employers, and really we think helping the colleges is quite unique. And I guess what I'd like to do is stop right there and let's begin talking. I mean, I guess, Kristen, if you wouldn't mind kicking it off with just telling us like a little more about like why did Gateway get involved with Unmudl? Can you dig in a little bit further? Like, what are you looking to get out of this?
Sure. Yeah, there, other than kind of the obvious reasons of recruitment and retention, we are not that far along in terms of our non-credit program development. And so we knew that that was an untapped market, and being able to respond to what we're hearing from students and what we're hearing from employers, that they want to be able to have kind of real-time training without having to commit a year, 2 years, 3 years, or longer to getting a credential that could then prepare them for the next step up in their career. So we really saw Unmudl as a way for us to be able to serve that part of the market that we haven't served well yet. But also, we're also at Maricopa building out our credit for prior learning and our PLA abilities. So we saw this as a way for us to be able to allow those students to be able to finally go from the non-credit into the credit space in a time in their life and a time in their career when they're ready to do so. So it doesn't have to be give up 3 years of your life to be able to come in and do this, but be working, be with your family, be doing your hobbies, and make that transition when the time is right for you. So those are some of the things that we saw. We also at Gateway are the only college in the community, in the Maricopa district in Phoenix, that offers clock hour training. So part of the student life cycle for us is including that clock hour component. And so how do you balance all three of these different types of education that can ultimately lead to the same credentials, but being able to offer students the ability to get that in a way that is the most convenient for them. So we're excited to see this kind of springboard off. Unmudl has also brought us some things that we didn't expect when we first engaged in the partnership as a founding college. And one of those is technology. We ended up purchasing a separate LMS for our non-credit students so that we could meet the goal of Unmudl, which is to be able to allow students to enroll in their course in 2 or 3 clicks and be done.
Mhm.
We went through a lot of conversations with IT and with faculty leadership across the college to determine what's going to be the best way to meet the entire solution. And so we eventually know that we will have to move those students from the non-credit LMS into our credit LMS for accreditation purposes and to meet those PLA and credit for prior learning opportunities. But we decided that keeping those folks and doing kind of a, for lack of a better term, kind of a churn and burn with non-credit, and then letting us be able to reach out to those students where we see the alignment with our credit and clock programs would serve us better and would serve students better through Unmudl. So that's where we're starting, and we'll build from there.
Great, great, thanks. Erica, same question for you. So why did CNM, initially get involved? Can you dig a little deeper?
Yeah, I think, as I said, this was part of us exploring a lot. We've been exploring a lot of ways to diversify our portfolio, not just in terms of revenue, but quite frankly, in testing new models for how we exist in the future of higher ed. We have seen the disruption that has been, that we now is, we're, I think, living in the midst of, but we started this journey with Unmudl almost like what, a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, it feels like, but maybe it's only been a year and a half or a year. And we knew the disruption was coming and that we couldn't be doing education in the same way. And so quite frankly, when we initially got involved in Unmudl, we were like, this might be a thing that works and it might not. And it's been interesting seeing now where the national conversation is and how that aligns really quite perfectly with what Unmudl is doing, as that the national conversation has accelerated because of COVID. And Unmudl in many ways was designed, right? Julian didn't mention this, but Parminder came out of the Institute for the Future, and a lot of the research that was done around the changes that were coming to learning that higher ed would need to make really informed the design of this marketplace. And I had been involved with the Institute for the Future and was very, impacted by what they were talking about were the scenarios for the future. And so as a result, I really, when we had the opportunity to join Unmudl as a founding partner, I convinced our college that this was an opportunity for us to really think about what we needed to do as a college to redesign the experience for students. And so particularly thinking about the redesign of college for working learners. Our systems were built on systems that were designed for people that were just going to attend college. And that no longer, I'm sure many of you in the audience can relate to this, that doesn't reflect the demographic, the majority demographic that we work with. 75% of our students at CNM on the credit side are part-time students. They're working full-time, they're raising families, and our ways of interacting with them doesn't work. Julian mentioned the whole, you've got to go through 7 layers or 7 clicks of a college site, we actually did a mapping exercise of our application process. There's actually 68 steps for a student to apply to get enrolled in classes. In Unmudl, they have to provide an email address, a phone number, and a credit card number to purchase a class. That's it. Now, there's a lot of back-end work that we're doing to integrate, and there may be other things that we need from them along the way, but we're really looking at this as an opportunity to understand how learners respond to this marketplace, and then how we start looking at those best practices and integrating them across our college.
That's great, Erica. Just kind of riff on that then a little bit further. So now that CNM is involved, it's a year and a half that you're now like stepped into the future, and and it is so true that many of us have been pushing. I mean, that's kind of where Parminder and I have come together over the years. Just like clearly we needed to move into the future, and this is clearly a case where we're sort of filling a void. But can you get a little more specific about how CNM plans to use Unmudl now that you're in the future, now that you're walking in the future?
Well, and I think a couple different things I'll say in response to that. When we started with Unmudl, we did not anticipate the emphasis on virtual and online offerings, right, that now we're all facing. We were really looking at this as an opportunity to elevate a hybrid, a local experience. What could you come to New Mexico? So, for example, we're a really great place to come to if you need training that requires an outdoor experience. Arizona, this is true for Arizona as well, in the middle of winter, because we're a very friendly climate year round. And so we also have a lot of sun. And so one of our areas of expertise is solar installation. And so we were seeing this as an opportunity of how we can really promote and bring people to New Mexico for like a boot camp type of a hybrid, do some stuff online and then come to New Mexico for 2 or 3 weeks and learn actually the application of solar installation. That's shifted a little bit in this current environment, right, of how we are thinking about now what we can do that is virtual and online in this environment for learners to have the convenience of not having place-based education. Doesn't mean that we're not still going to offer that, but we've shifted some of our boot camps that you had to come to New Mexico or be in New Mexico to do, to actually redesigning, as again, I'm sure many of you have done, those to be virtual experiences. The other piece that I would say that we didn't anticipate is how much we are getting by being in a space with other community colleges. We're sharing best practices, we're learning from each other, we're sharing resources. Kristen actually just sent out an email saying, hey, we're doing this. I figured I'd reach out and ask you guys if you have something that you can share as it relates to this particular thing before we invent it from scratch. I've gotten elements from Kristen that I've been able to take back to our team to say, hey, Gateway is promoting their short-term classes in this way. Can we think about how we might need to do that? So for me, the collaboration has been just incredibly rich and an unanticipated way that we plan to continue to use Unmudl.
I mean, one of the things that I find so fascinating about Unmudl is I've been involved with a lot of learning communities over the year. And in a sense, you are, over the years, you are a learning community at colleges, but at the same time, you're building an enterprise and you're, dealing with all these internal processes. So it's you're learning and doing, which is kind of cool. How about, Kristen, how about for Gateway? So, has your thinking about how you want to use Unmudl shifted now that you're involved with it? And if so, how? How do you plan to use it? the platform?
So I think one piece that maybe Erica didn't already cover is one of the things we're doing with it is really using this new world for us of non-credit training, specifically in Unmudl, because of the data that Unmudl is able to provide us. We're using it we intend to use it very aggressively after we launch in November as a new way to do program feasibility. You know, I think we all find ourselves, and we have for decades and decades, when we talk about starting new programs, especially occupational programs and skills-based programs at the colleges, of what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we try to enroll students to prove that there's a need for it, or do you, output all the money in terms of facilities, residential faculty, and all of the infrastructure that goes along with offering a lot of these skills-based credentials? We plan to use Unmudl and test things in non-credit that we can very quickly stand up, see what kind of traction we get, be monitoring all of that real-time data so that we can show over time where is non-credit doing better than credit, and maybe we need to take a very serious look at what we're doing in credit and even clock hour training. If the momentum isn't there, if the trend is toward non-credit, why are we trying to do it in credit? And likewise, be looking at new types of training, new programs, things that are coming out in the world of AI, for example, that maybe we're not specifically at Gateway, haven't jumped off the diving board on that yet. We can throw some quick training up in Unmudl, be watching those trends. That can answer a lot of those questions around, if we build it, will they come? You know, we all use Department of Labor and BLS data to do the best kind of 10-year employment projections, but this is more of that real-time way to interact and to be able to gauge that data to see if they're going to be there, if the students will be there, if we do stand up the training. So I think that there's still undiscovered potential that we'll all learn once the platform does launch in November, and ways that we'll end up using it that we haven't even thought of yet. I know we've learned a ton, and Erica mentioned some of the things just since we initially said, yes, count us in, and all of the learning in terms of best practices and you learn a lot about what not to do, I think, in this process, which is really a benefit on the other end. Our technology systems, our enrollment practices, you learn a lot about really what's working and what's not, and that can be invaluable.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, so Erica and Kristen are part of a group that I think, Erica, you started this, but it's called the Champions. So Unmudl is governed by a steering council of the presidents, chancellors, and then there's the Champions group that are basically the people who are dealing with the CEOs at every one of the organizations, because they have to pull in finance and IT and marketing and so on. But it's so interesting to me in those conversations of the Champions group to hear about some of the issues that are coming up in terms of process and professional development and just workflows and that sort of thing. Erica, can you speak a little bit to some of that, and and I guess in light of opportunities and challenges that you see?
Yeah, so I think some of the opportunities that I actually see is this idea of a collective of community colleges that are national, right? And I think the power in that is not only what we can learn from each other in all of this, but it's also that we are able to advocate together for what we're learning and what we need. And so it's not just Erica at CNM saying to my college, here's, we need to be advocating in our state for non-credit funding, because the data is showing us out of Unmudl that this is a barrier to learners, or we need to do more non-credit to credit pathways because the data from Unmudl is showing us that learners are taking advantage. We're able to actually collectively inform a national conversation around these issues that right now is just swirling in a way we didn't ever anticipate when we got involved in Unmudl. And to Kristen's point, I think the data collection and sharing that's going to come out of this is really powerful. And in terms of the colleges, the challenges,
Both for the
the
colleges and for the initiative. I'm interested.
yeah, I think the challenge is, is funding, non-credit funding for students, is really challenging. When we talk about even the funding that comes out of, workforce, like WIOA funding, it's tied to a very specific region. And so how do we change some of the conversation that, that other countries have learning credits that follow them, doesn't matter where they go, where they are in their lifetime, that we might be advocating for things like that. And then very specifically, just one of the major challenges for those of you that are in workforce, or if you're on the kind of academic credit side, is we operate in silos. And so it's very, and a lot of times workforce development has been kind of the stepchild of the college. And so I think both the opportunity and the challenge is to really enable the cross-silo sharing, working, and collaborating within our own institution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think, we're already having conversations with policymakers around the country about what we're doing and implications for, WIOA, for workforce funding, for adult ed, for, other funding sources that really aren't set up to kind of coalesce around this sort of national resource. How about for you, Kristen? What do you see as the kind of challenges, both for Gateway and for the initiative? And then I want to get to the field in a moment too, because I do feel like, you two, you may not realize it, but through this experience, you're in places that most colleges have not yet gone. And I think there's a lot to be learned for the field, whether or not they join Unmudl. So, but Kristen, would you mind starting with the college challenges?
Sure. And I'll take a little bit of a different approach and just talk about kind of the challenges from an operational and implementation perspective, especially being a college in a multi-college district. At Maricopa, we are individually accredited colleges, but still operate as one single community college district. So one of the challenges that we've experienced is that of the other colleges. The other 9, the cat has gotten out of the bag with what we're doing with Unmudl at Gateway, and the other 9 colleges now want in. And it has now become a why Gateway and not us, and why this, and why isn't this a district-wide initiative? And what we've really asked them is we've said, wait, we've done all the hard work over the past, year or 2 that we've been involved with Unmudl in terms of business services, hiring, technology, credit for prior learning assessment, marketing, instructional design, and all of those things we haven't even fully developed yet. But what we want to do is then be able to hand a playbook over to our sister colleges and say, okay, we've done all the heavy lifting, because when we talk about challenges, many of those challenges come in terms of the back end internal college, the resources in terms of manpower and time, technology that it takes for us to be able to then maximize what we're doing on Unmudl. So I think that is something definitely to consider and have a good plan for. Some of that goes to what Erica alluded to earlier, which is the buy-in. Getting the buy-in from college leadership, but also building the excitement from faculty to staff, all the way across student affairs, everywhere, with what the outcome can be and the excitement around Unmudl. We were fortunate that we did kind of get that excitement, and we had a cross-functional team that has really done the heavy lifting in getting us to where we are now, and will get us to the end point. But just some of those back-end supports I think are important to consider, so that they don't end up costing the colleges, precious time with when they could be having content out there and generating that revenue. One of the other things that I think was a challenge for us, and is a challenge because Gateway is somewhat new in the non-credit space overall, is getting that buy-in and that collective understanding across the college in credit and clock hour for us, that non-credit is not a competition. Non-credit is just another way of accessing training for students, and that's our mission. That's our job, is to educate and train, and not to see these different ways to offer the training as an internal competition to a credit program, to a clock program, because the truth of the matter is the market for credit, for non-credit and clock is different. You're attracting a different type of student that is in a different place on their educational lifelong journey. And these are not programs these are complements to each other and not competitions. So that was, when we first started this, that was a little bit of a surprise to me because I never saw it as competition. So when I started to get a lot of that pushback from faculty and others, it really made me take a step back and say, wait a second, we as an institution need to view this completely differently.
Yeah, that's really such a good point.
And I want to like just add one exclamation point to that,
Or two.
because that is where some of the greatest challenge has been, is kind of reframing and reorienting people that this is not, that this is a different way to bring people into our institution and hopefully put them on that pathway if they don't have a degree. Some folks have a degree, so we need to be treating them differently. But one of the things I said is, listen, a lot of the learners that we see in our non-credit programs don't see themselves as college students. Right. They don't believe they're quote unquote college material. They've gotten that message from somewhere. But when they succeed in non-credit offerings that are associated with a college that articulate to college credit, we can say, listen, you've already proven you are a college student. So let us help you continue that pathway.
Great points. So we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I want to make sure that we allow time for broader Q&A. I'm only seeing one Q&A, one question from Patty, asking us to repeat where to find the recording to view again. I'm going to leave that to you, Ed, when the time is right to report on that, because it will be from you, since I am not the recorder of this one. And I don't know where to find that link, but please do. And we would love to hear from folks, come on in, and Ed, do you have any questions for?
I do. I find this fascinating. I guess the first question I want to make sure I understand, Erica mentioned the benefits of collaboration, and I know there's obviously a great deal of collaboration with Kristen, and I'm wondering if that collaboration is a function of Unmudl operations and the way, all of the Unmudl College Network members come together, or is that a function of the fact that you guys happen to be founding members?
So I would say that it's both. So as founding members, we actually got to influence how Unmudl would be. And so while I think Unmudl always envisioned this as a collaborative space for community colleges, we put it on steroids because we really said this is so critical, this is such a benefit, that we really centered the type of collaboration and connection that we want and believe should be a part of any college coming into this environment and being able to connect and learn from each other in the ways that we have. Okay. So I think now we're part of the cooks who help bake the pie that everybody else will get to eat.
Okay.
It's very, very true. Right. So for that, you get unlimited portions.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's very much of the college. It is really, mostly what we are doing at Social Tech is providing a framework for the colleges to do their thing. I'm trying to support them in that. I think there will be things we will do around like marketing and some fundraising, but even then, it's all collaborative. But it's all driven by what's real and what's needed by the colleges.
You know, it was also said that you went from an enrollment process that had 68 steps to a greatly simplified enrollment process. And I'm wondering, did that result in higher enrollment, fewer walkaways? I mean, what really was the impact of that other than simply making it that much simpler?
Well, let me clarify, first of all, we mapped an enrollment process on our credit side that was 68 steps. We've already gone through a process that is about, brought that down to about 50%. We have the same issue on our non-credit side. And so what Unmudl has allowed us to do is to go from like the 20 steps of non-credit to really the entry of 3 steps. And you asked what's been the result? We don't know yet because we haven't launched public until November. But based on all the research that has gone into by social tech on what students want and need, and one of the really cool things about Unmudl is they actually have a panel, a group of student working learners that are advisory to this process and group. So they've already gotten feedback from working learners on these experiences. But as you said, the end result will be, okay, we built it, and what will be the learner's response to having an Amazon experience of, I put something in my shopping cart and I check out, and that's it. And we believe there's going to be a lot of power in that.
Julian, at the beginning of this, you were saying that it sounds like if you had your wish, you would have 1 or 2 colleges in each state. Okay, and I'm wondering, that's because you want to start slowly, or is there a perceived upper limit in terms of how many colleges can actually participate in the network?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's, first of all, this field is not completely new. You know, we have edX, Coursera, we have other aggregators. And so we also are getting a feel for what it takes to run the operation. So for example, again, Erica, Kristen are founders, and they're also the guinea pigs. They're also taking the lumps around their colleges, around just, you know, the integrations and the technology piece. And we're getting a feel for what it takes to integrate. And so we want to be very realistic and grow this in a way so that when we do reach that, 100 or so colleges, it really is about having a geographic spread and a diversity of urban and rural and suburban colleges. You know, we already do a little teeny microcosm of that, but that's really what we want to have around the country, because we think that it just gives us that resource. At the same time, you know, we want to keep working with the NCCTs of the world to get the word out. Like I kind of said it earlier, but we think what we're learning has tremendous, you know, what these two and their colleagues and the other colleges are learning is incredible. I mean, they are literally in the future. It's going to take colleges on their own a lot longer to get there. And so we think we can really inform the field quite broadly. So even though colleges, not everyone is going to need to be in Unmudl, we think that it's going to be a driver of, we hope, of reform, positive reform.
The whole idea of having a national conversation around this is intriguing and obviously of great interest to us, to, you know, again, National Council. Do you already have any type of promotional publication thoughts, or any way of capturing and marketing some of the findings, some of the early outcomes that are being experienced by the founding members?
Well, this is a good example, and we're actually having, sort of our roll up to our launch in November is going to consist of a series of different conferences. Erica mentioned one group where we're going to be speaking to 25,000 an organization that represents 25,000 working learners. We're on agendas of various conferences. We're definitely beginning to do some writing. We're going to be putting out kind of a piece shortly for colleges about kind of, what it takes to leap into the future, or at least to select a marketplace to play with. So there'll be more to come for sure. Okay. Yes, okay. Absolutely, definitely.
This is fascinating. I got to tell you, it's very, very interesting. Patty wanted to know where to find this recording to view again. This recording and all of the Pathfinder sessions will be recorded and posted to our website at nccet.org, along with a downloadable Pathfinder playbook specific to this session. All of the sessions will have a similar playbook. The playbook is 1 or 2 pages that provides kind of an outline of the highlights conveyed during this session and contact information so that you can follow up with the people that presented this information. And we absolutely want to promote that and want to make sure that our folks have a way of reaching you. I'm going to want to talk to you some more and see if there's some other obvious alignments that we should explore, but it is fascinating. Do you guys have any other questions or anything else that you want to share?
I just want to say thank you again so much for including us, Ed, Erica and Kristen, for taking time out of your busy days to be a part of this. You know, yes, any colleges that want to know more, that may want to come find out about joining our Unmudl family, send them my way, and I'm sure Kristen and Erica would be happy to speak with folks as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. To our audience, thank you folks for joining us here. Thanks again, Julian.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Kristen,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.